To all those people watching, I would like to remind everyone that this video is not made strictly for kids. It is for older fans and adults too. Enjoy the fucking video! This video is brought to you by my loyal patrons. Register now at any tier to watch new videos 1 month in advance before they're made public. Link is in the description.
Blinky Bill.
Trust us, we're bananas.
A-A-R-D-V-A-R-K.
I declare Noddy the champion of the sports day. Hooray, well done, Noddy.
We have to trick Alfred. Are you talking about me?
No, Alfred.
You look a right mess, Bat.
Here's your catalogue, Alf.
I'm glad the little girl wrote to us, whispered Thomas to Percy. Isn't it wonderful what happiness a letter can bring?
I think the ball is my favourite toy, thought Spot.
Keep wiggling. Don't stop wiggling.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
Oh, well, great wigglers. Give yourselves a big clap, everyone.
A-B-C.
Bringing you the best in children's video.
The little engines were very excited. There was going to be a grand opening of a new line near the lake. Even more people were to travel on their line to see it. On the day before the grand opening, Peter Sam was talking to Duck about it. "And the Fat Controller told us that the Duke is coming to open up the new line," he said excitedly. "I remember working with him." Duck, however, looked very doubtful. "But I keep telling you," he said, "there are no Dukes. They were fine and stately, but they've all been scrapped." Peter Sam goggled in horror. "This is dreadful," he wailed. "The Fat Controller said he was coming to our grand opening, and now he's scrapped. Oh dear, the whole thing will be spoiled for everyone. Oh dear, oh dear." He bustled away with his empty coaches to tell his bad news. "I think," said Skarloey, "that Duck was pulling our wheels." "No, Skarloey, he was quite serious." "He always jokes like that," chuckled Skarloey, but no one agreed, and they argued so loudly that the Fat Controller came to stop their noise. They told him about Duck, but he paid no attention. "I've no time for this nonsense now," he snapped. "There's a change in tomorrow's work. Skarloey, you'll meet the Duke at 11 o'clock instead of 10:30. And he hurried away. "If there is a Duke," said Duncan, but they were all too tired to argue anymore. and they all went to sleep looking gloomy. But the next morning they were greeted by the sounds of an all-metal band. The engines even joined in as well with their whistles. The fat controller laughed. "That's enough," he ordered. "It's time that your trains are ready." So Rusty, Sir Handel and Duncan went to find their coaches. The platform was crowded with visitors. The fat controller had given Peter Sam an important job. He was pulling the television train. The visitors waved as they went by. Peter Sam was delighted with the job, but he was still sad about his Duke. At last they reached a station by the lake. "Listen," he said. "Here's Scar Louis. They're cheering him." "Good," answered Rheneas. "Perhaps that will make up for his disappointment over the Duke." But Scar Louis wasn't disappointed at all. "I brought the Duke! I brought the Duke! I brought the Duke!" he puffed. A distinguished-looking man stepped out, climbed to Scar Louis' footplate, and drove him on the new line round the lake and back again. Then he stood on Scar Louis' front buffer beam. He said, "Ladies, gentlemen, and engines, I have pleasure in declaring your lovely lakeside loop line now open." Peter Sam could bear it no longer. "Excuse me, Sir Duke," he burst out. "Why aren't you an engine?" There was shocked silence. The Duke smiled. "Scar Louis said you've been listening to Duck," he answered. "Duck thinks Dukes were Great Western engines, and as you can see, I am a person, not an engine, and Dukes are people. I am happy to assure you, Peter Sam, that I am a real live Duke." He turned to the fat controller. "I congratulate you, sir, on your remarkable railway, and I do hope that your new line will bring you much more success in the years to come." All the engines whistled, but Peter Sam, however, was cross. When he returned to the station, he saw Duck with his passengers. "So you were pulling my wheels, weren't you?" he said crossly. Then he told him about the Duke. "I thought you were referring to the ones of the Great Western. Who's this Duke that you worked with?" But Peter Sam huffed away. Thomas chuckled. He knew exactly what Peter Sam was referring to. But that's another story. Lots of people travel to the big station at the end of the line. Engines from the other railway sometimes pull their trains. These engines stay the night and go home the next day. One day, Gordon was talking to one of these engines. "When I was young and green," he said, "I remember going to London. Do you know the place?" "The station was called King's Cross." "King's Cross!" snorted the engine. "London's Euston. Everybody knows that." "Rubbish," said Duck. "London's Paddington. I worked there." They argued all day and night, and they were still arguing when the other engine went away. "Stupid thing," said Gordon crossly. "I've no patience." "Stupid yourself," said Duck. "London's Paddington. Do you hear?" "Stop arguing," James broke in. "You make me tired. You both agreed about something anyway." "What's that?" London's not Euston. Now shut up. I'm sure it's King's Cross, said Gordon grumpily. I'll go and prove it. But that was easier said than done. London lay beyond the big station at the end of the line. Gordon had to stop there and let the other engine take it over. If I didn't stop, he thought, I could go to London. One day he ran right through the station. Another time he tried to start before the fireman could uncouple him from the coaches. He tried all sorts of tricks, but it was no good. His driver checked him every time. Oh dear, he thought sadly. I'll never get there. One day he pulled the express to the station as usual. He was uncoupled from the coaches and was placed onto a siding to wait until it was time to go home. The coaches stood at the platform waiting for the engine to take them to London. They waited and waited, but their engine didn't come. That's strange. It's nearly time for them to go, thought Gordon. Just then a porter ran across and spoke to Gordon's driver. The inspector's on the platform. He wants to see you. So he did. The driver came back looking excited. Hello, said the fireman. What's happened? The engine for the express had derailed when coming out of the yards. Nothing would come in or out, and so they want us to take his train to London. The Fat Controller agreed we could pull it. How's that? Fine, said the fireman. We'll show them what the Fat Controller's engines can do. This made Gordon very excited. Well, come on, let's go! And he rolled quickly over the crossings and backed onto the train. To Gordon it felt like ages, but it had only been a few minutes before the guard blew his whistle. Come on, come on, come on, he puffed to the coaches. The Fat Controller's relying on me to be on time. We're going to town, we're going to town, sang the coaches. Gordon found that London was a long way away. Never mind, he said. I like a good long run to stretch my wheels. But all the same, he was glad when London came in sight. Gordon returned the next day. The Fat Controller came to see him and spoke to his crew. I see you had a good welcome in London. We certainly did, sir. We signed autographs till our arms ached, and Gordon had his photograph taken from so many directions at once that he didn't know which way to look. Good, smiled the Fat Controller. I expect he enjoyed himself, didn't you, Gordon? No, sir, I didn't. Why ever not? London's all wrong. They've changed it. It isn't King's Cross anymore. It's St. Pancras. After Gordon had returned from London, the Fat Controller had decided to give him a rest, and he told James to do his work for him. James got very conceited about it. One day he saw Toby at the junction. You know, little Toby, I'm an imported engine now. Everybody knows it. They come in crowds to see me flash by. The heaviest train makes no difference. I'm as regular as clockwork. They all set their watches by me. Says you, replied Toby cheekily, and he puffed away. Toby's parts were worn, and the fat controller had sent him to the works to be repaired. They clanked as he trundled along the main line, but he was enjoying his journey. However, Toby did find the journey to the works to be a bit lonely. He wanted to take Henrietta, but the fat controller said, "No, what would the passengers do without you?" Percy promised to look after her, but Toby couldn't help worrying. "Percy doesn't understand her like I do," he said. He was a little engine, and his tanks didn't hold much water, so he would often have to stop for a drink. He had small wheels too, and couldn't go fast. "Never mind," he thought. "The signalmen all know me. They'll give me plenty of time." But he didn't know that at one of these stations was a new signalman. He felt thirsty and tired, and he had come a long way. He saw a distance signal. "Good," he thought. "Now I can have a nice drink and rest in a siding till James has gone by." Toby's driver thought so too. They stopped by the water crane. Toby was enjoying his drink when the signalman came up. Toby had never seen him before. "No time for that," said the signalman. "We must clear the road for the express." "Right," said the driver. "We'll wait in the siding." "No good," said the signalman. "It's full of trucks. You'll have to hurry to the next station. They've got plenty of room for you there." I must hurry, panted Toby as he clanked sadly away. But hurrying used a lot of water, and his tanks were soon empty. They damped down his fire and struggled on, but he soon ran out of steam and stood marooned on the main line far away from the next station. The fireman walked back. He put detonators on the line to warn James and his driver that he hurried along the sleepers. "I'll tell that signalman something," he said grimly. James was fuming when Toby's fireman arrived and explained what had happened. "I'm going to be late!" "My fault," said the signalman. "I didn't understand about Toby." "Now, James," said his driver, "you'll have to push him." "What, me?" snorted James. "Me? Push Toby and pull my train too?" "Yes, you. Shan't." The driver, the fireman, the passengers and the guard all said he was a bad engine. All right, grumbled James. He came up behind Toby and gave him a bump. "Get on, you," he said crossly. James's driver made him push Toby all the way to the works. "It serves you right for being cross," he said. James had to work very hard, and when he reached the workstation, he felt exhausted. Some little boys ran along the platform. "Coo," said one. "The express is late. A double-header too. Do you know what I think? I think," he went on, "that James couldn't pull the train, so Toby had to help him." "Caw," said James, and disappeared in a cloud of steam. "Never mind, James," Toby smiled. "They're only teasing. Ha ha!" When Toby came back, he saw the new signalman standing on the platform. He apologized to Toby, and the tram engine accepted it. Toby and the new signalman got on well together. When he came back, he was so pleased to see Henrietta again. Henrietta enjoyed her time with Percy, but she was glad to be back with Toby taking passengers. One evening, Gordon was in the yards taking on a large supply of coal. Diesel oiled up alongside. Taking on more coal, Gordon? Indeed I am, replied Gordon. I am an important engine. Important, eh? Diesel said slyly. Just as important as those steam engines on the mainland. Oh, the ones that we diesels are abolishing because we're the most important engines now since we're taking over. Gordon was most upset. He was still feeling sad the next day. I'm not happy. Your firebox might be out of order, said James. No wonder after all that coal you had yesterday. You wouldn't understand, grunted Gordon. I know, put in Duck brightly. It's boiler ache. I warned you about that standpipe on the other railway, but you drink gallons. It's not boiler ache, protested Gordon. It's... Of course it is, interrupted Henry. That water's bad. Your boiler must be full of sludge. Have a good washout, then you'll feel a different engine. Don't be vulgar, said Gordon happily. He backed down on his train, hissing mournfully. Cheer up, Gordon, said the Fat Controller. I can't, sir. Is it true what Diesel said, sir? What did he say? That diesels are taking over? Don't worry, Gordon, that will never happen on my railway. But is it true, sir, that the diesels are abolishing steam on the mainland, sir? Yes, Gordon, it is true. Gordon gasped in disbelief. What, sir? All of them? The ones drawn the same time as me? All gone, except one. The guard blew his whistle, and Gordon puffed sadly away. The Fat Controller felt sorry for Gordon, and then he had an idea, and he hurried away to his office. Later that night, Gordon was resting in the shed when his driver came rushing towards him looking excited. Wake up, Gordon! The Fat Controller has given you a surprise! Look! Gordon could hardly believe it. Backing down towards him were two massive green tenders and a shape very much like his own. It's Flying Scotsman! He gasped. The Fat Controller brought him to see me. Oh, thank you, sir. Gordon's toot of joy was drowned by Flying Scotsman's as he drew alongside. The next day, the two engines were being photographed side by side. They got on very well. Then Gordon looked at the two tenders. If I had two tenders, said Gordon, I wouldn't need to stop so often and wouldn't have to listen to silly little engines. Flying Scotsman chuckled. No, you hardly believe it, Gordon. But over on the other railway, they've hardly any coal and water. That's why I have two tenders, because there are hardly any for me on long journeys. Gordon gasped. But you are lucky, Gordon, to have a controller who knows how to run railways. Everyone got on well with Flying Scotsman, except Henry. He banged some trucks angrily. I always worked hard enough for two, he puffed. I deserve another tender. Why does Scotsman get two? He's famous, explained Duck and Donald. He was the first to reach 100 miles an hour, added Thomas. Huh, sniffed Henry. Duck whispered something to Donald. He was going to play a trick on Henry. Henry, he asked innocently, would you like my tenders? Yours? What have you got to do with tenders? All right, said Duck. The deal's off. Would you like them, Donald? I wouldn't deprive you of the honour, replied Donald. It is a great honour, continued Duck thoughtfully. I'm sorry I was rude, said Henry hastily. How many tenders have you, and when could I have them? I have 6, and you can have them this evening. 6 lovely tenders, chortled Henry. What a splendid sight I will be. The other engines waited where they could each get a good view. But Henry wasn't a splendid sight at all. His 6 tenders were very old, dirty, and were full of boiler sludge. Have a good washout, Henry, called a voice. That's right, you'll feel a different engine now. Henry wasn't sure, but he thought the voice belonged to Gordon. One evening, Thomas brought his last train to the junction. Percy and Toby were there too. I'm going to the big station, he boasted. So are we, they answered. So you know, Percy went on, I think something's up. Toby looked at the sky. Where? Down here, silly, laughed Thomas. How, said Toby reasonably, can something be up when it's down? Look, look, said Thomas excitedly. Some engines were coming down the line. Hello, Bill, whistled Percy. Hello, Ben. They're friends of mine, he explained. I don't know the others. Bill and Ben whistled cheerfully as they puffed through the station. What is all this? Asked Thomas. The Fat Controller's got a plan, answered the driver, and he's going to tell it to us. Come on. So they followed to the big station at the end of the line where all the engines had gone. The Fat Controller was there waiting for them. The people of England, he said, read about us in books, but they do not think that we are real. Shame! Squeaked Percy. Sure, he continued, I am taking my engines to England to show them. Hooray, hooray, whistled the engines. The Fat Controller held his ears. Silence, he bellowed. We start the day after tomorrow at 8 a.m. Meanwhile, as these engines here and on the other railway had kindly come to take your place, you will show them your work tomorrow. The next day, as Annie and Clara were going to England too, Thomas and Bill practiced with some other coaches. Thomas was excited. He began boasting about his race with Bertie. I whooshed through the tunnel and stopped an inch from the buffers, like this. The buffers broke. No one was hurt, but Thomas's buffers were badly bent. The Fat Controller is sending up some men to help you, Thomas, but if they can't mend you in time, you'll have to miss out on England. The next morning the engines waited at the junction. Henrietta stood in a siding feeling very sad that she and Toby would be apart again. Toby thought the same as well. The Fat Controller saw this and thought of an idea. I'll fit you up as my private coach. I wouldn't dream of leaving you behind, he said. Henrietta felt very grand, and she and Toby were pleased to be together. Gordon, Henry and James were in front. They whistled impatiently. The Fat Controller paced the platform and looked at his watch. 1 more minute. Beep, 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 whistled Thomas as he panted into the station. We hope we're not late. It isn't quite 8, twittered Annie and Clarabelle anxiously. Thomas, said the Fat Controller sternly, I am most displeased with you. You nearly upset my arrangements. Abashed, Thomas made his way with his coaches behind Duck without saying a word. At last, everything was ready. Look out, England, here we come! And the cavalcade puffed off. The engines stood in a shed. Hundreds of people came to see them and climbed in and out of their cabs. They liked it at first, but presently felt very bored and were glad when it was time to go. They returned to the station with everyone cheering. Those others did their best, but nothing anywhere can compare with our Fat Controller's engines. Boko is the Fat Controller's new diesel who works with Edward on his branch line. One day he reached a big station with his trucks. After he had placed them in a siding, he went to the shed and asked politely if he could come in. Duck was not pleased. He was still hurt that Diesel had caused trouble for him. "You never believe what had happened to me," he told him, and then explained about Bill and Ben's trick. "Luckily Edward came and stopped them. He's very clever, isn't he?" he finished. The mention of Edward perked Duck up a bit, and soon he became more friendly with Boko. They laughed like old friends when talking about Bill and Ben some more. "Have they ever played tricks on you?" asked Boko. "Goodness me, yes," chuckled Duck. "Edward is the only one who can keep them in order. You know," he went on, "we sometimes call them the bees." "A good name," chuckled Boko. "They're terrors when they start buzzing around." Just then James bustled in. "What's that, Duck? Are you terrified of bees? They're only insects after all, so don't let that buzzbox Diesel tell you differently." "His name is Boko, and he didn't. I wouldn't care," interrupted James. "If hundreds were swarming around, I'd just blow smoke and make the buzz off." "Buzz, buzz, buzz," retorted Duck. "Pah!" scoffed James, and huffed crossly into his shed. The next morning James was to pull the express, and when Duck brought his coaches into the station, the platform was crowded with people. 2 porters were taking a loaded luggage trolley to the front there. "Mind your backs! Mind your backs!" shouted Bert. He then saw that Fred was in a hurry. "Careful, Fred, careful!" he warned, but Fred didn't listen. Suddenly an old lady appeared in front. Fred stopped suddenly, but the luggage slid forward, and a large white crate burst its lid open. Some bees flew out and the passengers were frightened. As James came backing down towards his coaches, the bees began to explore the station, and after someone shouted, the station was cleared like magic. The bees were too sleepy to be cross and found the empty station to be cold. James's fireman was trying to couple the train, and the bees buzzed around him, hoping he would mend their hive. Then they could go back and be warm again. But the fireman thought they wanted to sting him and ran back to the cab. The bees then buzzed around the driver, but even he didn't understand and was swatting the bees with his shovel. The bees, disappointed, turned their attention to James, whose boiler was nice and warm. The bees were happy, but not James. "Buzz off! Buzz off!" he hissed, and blew smoke at them, but the wind blew it away and the bees stayed. But one bee burnt its feet and thought James had stung him on purpose. It stung James right back on the nose. "Eeeeee!" whistled James. He, his driver and the fireman had had enough, and they started without waiting for the guard's whistle. They didn't notice till too late that they left their train behind. The Fat Controller was not happy, and came to see James when he stopped at a signal box. "Although the accident wasn't your fault, James, you had caused confusion by leaving your passengers behind. I'll arrange bulldozers to take your passengers, and once when the path is clear for you, you'll be shunting in the yard instead." When the Fat Controller told Boko he was to take James's passengers, he was worried. "But sir, I was to take some trucks back to Edward Station with me," he said. "Don't worry," replied Duck. "I'll look after them for you." Boko was pleased to have a friend in Duck, and so it was arranged. He collected the coaches and rode away. He managed to gain back some of the lost time, and the Fat Controller was pleased with him. "Would you like to pull the express sometime?" "Yes, please, sir," replied Boko happily. James returned to the yard and did his shunting. When he returned to the sheds, the other engines were talking about a new kind of beehive on wheels. When they saw James pulling in, they all said, "Buzz, buzz, buzz," and laughed. James thought they were being very silly. The passengers were fond of Boko and were always pleased when he was pulling the express. He ran them to time and they gave him nothing but praise. This did, however, leave Gordon feeling sour. But that's another story. During the summer, a party of scouts set up tents in a field beside the line. They bustled about arranging things but were never too busy to wave to the engines as they passed. Duncan was puzzled by this, and he explained it to Scarloey at the sheds. "Hadn't you heard of the Fat Controller? They come for their annual camp," he explained. "It's a sort of holiday for them. Their leader has been to see the Fat Controller, and he says that the boys could work on the railway for us." "Sounds like a funny sort of holiday to me," said Duncan doubtfully. "Lots of people do it," continued Scarloey. "Plenty of railways have most of their work done like that. The scouts are going to help us. You know that place near the top station where the ditches were bad and we had to be careful when it's wet? Well, the scouts are going to put that right for us." The other engines were pleased because they didn't like having to slow down there in the wet or frosty weather, but Duncan was doubtful. "Pah, that problem has been around since who knows when. I doubt they will have the time to fix it, and I doubt they will do a proper job on our railway," and he huffed crossly away to collect his passengers. It had been raining for the past few days, and the ground was still soggy and wet, with the ditches overflowing on the ground that carried over to the railway. Even Duncan hated crossing over it as he had to slow down. "I'm fed up with those ditches," he said crossly. "It delays my trains and the passengers are always complaining about it. What do they want me to do? I'm just an engine." "I know it's annoying," replied his driver sympathetically, "but we must adhere to the restriction that the Fat Controller allowed us to." Duncan groaned. Later that day he was making his way to the quarry with some empty trucks. It was still raining, and the water from the bad ditches had gotten worse as it covered the entire track, washing the ballast away. As they neared the bad piece of track, his driver then said, "We better go slow," but Duncan replied, "No, I'm not letting some signpost telling me how fast I could go. I'm sick of slowing down here. How bad can it be if some water covers the track?" But while Duncan was arguing with his driver, the fireman saw the flooded track and called out to the driver. Duncan and his driver then saw it themselves, and the driver applied the brakes, but it was too late. "Sleepers and ballast," he huffed. "I'm off." Luckily Duncan's driver and fireman had jumped clear before the crash, but they were on the loneliest part of the line, and the top station was miles away. Just then they heard some singing. Duncan's driver smiled, and he and the fireman went straight towards the sound. "Where are you going?" cried Duncan. "To get some help," replied the driver. He came back with a group of scouts and their leader. "Why did you get help from them, driver?" After that, he was quiet and went back to the sheds. The rain had passed, the sun was shining bright, and the line leading up to the top station was fixed. But it became hotter and hotter, too hot even for holidaymakers to lie on the beach. The scouts were hot too as they were helping out on the line. Thankfully, they rested when one of the engines passed by and waved to them cheerfully. But their waves became wearier as the weeks wore on. On the final day of camp, Duncan was puffing up the line with his passengers, even though he was hot. "I'm so tired, I'm thirsty, and I want a rest," he grouched. "Don't worry, Duncan, we could do all that at the top station." Then he saw the scout leader waving his arms. "Great," grumbled Duncan. The scout leader came towards Duncan's cab and asked him if he could collect some cold drinks. "Of course, sir," replied Duncan, and he puffed away. They pulled into the top station and asked the refreshment lady, who gave them the cold drinks. "I haven't got much myself," she said, "but the scouts are welcome to what there is." Then Duncan came towards the boys. They cheered when they saw him, and the cold drinks were given out. "Thank you, Duncan," they said. "No," replied Duncan. "This is a thank you for helping me." Work had been busy at the harbour on Edward's branch line, and the Fat Controller had brought in Diesel from the other railway to help. Edward wasn't happy to see that he was to help out, but the Fat Controller told him that he was the only engine available. Just then, Bill and Ben puffed into the yards with trucks from the China clay pits. "What's this?" they said. "Is it Boko, or a big black box on wheels?" "Don't be silly, Bill," replied Ben cheekily. "Boko is a big long diesel, not this loaf of bread." Diesel fumed. "What's your name?" asked Bill. "Diesel," replied Diesel crossly. "We know what you are, but really, what is your name?" Bill asked. "All right, you two, enough of that. His name is literally Diesel, and he told the twins what he came here for." "Oh, so you're here to help us?" "Yes," snapped Diesel crossly, "and I don't want your tricks near me." And he walked crossly away while the twins puffed away to shunt trucks around the yards. Edward sighed. "I always get the feeling that there would be trouble with those two and Diesel." Edward was right. While Diesel was shunting trucks, the tank engine twins were playing many tricks on him. But Bill and Ben found it to be fun, until Edward put them in their place. "Bill and Ben, you have been rather troublesome to Diesel that it caused this mess. May I remind you that he was brought here to help you, me and Boko in the yards, and thanks to you, there's going to be a build-up of a backlog. A party of railway enthusiasts are coming soon," he added. "I shan't bring them unless you behave." "A party of what?" gasped the twins. "Railway enthusiasts," replied Edward. "People who like railways. They'll be coming to take notes and photographs of us." "When?" cried the twins in unison. "Next week," he said, "but not if you don't behave." Bill and Ben promised that they would, which was a blessing for Diesel. Although the twins promised to behave, their constant asking about the enthusiasts was annoying Diesel. "Is it next week?" they asked him each morning, but Diesel just growled and he rolled away. But Bill and Ben weren't worried. They kept urging their crews to polish them. "What's the hurry?" they laughed. "The enthusiasts aren't going to eat their breakfast off of you, you know." Bill and Ben laughed. Just then Diesel rolled up towards them. "You know, those enthusiasts aren't going to be interested in dirty old steam engines," he oiled. "They would be more interested in a more revolutionary engine like me." "And why's that?" replied Ben crossly. "Because we Diesels are taking over and we are more modern and powerful than any tank engine. We could pull a ship out to sea." This made Bill and Ben most upset and were causing trouble around the yard. Edward saw this and Bill and Ben explained what Diesel had said to them earlier. "Take no notice of him, he's just big-headed." This cheered Bill and Ben up and all the engines laughed and carried on with their work. The next week came, and Edward pulled into the yards with the enthusiasts on board. Bill, Ben, and even Diesel were given a polish. Many of the enthusiasts were taking notes and photographs of all the engines, and some had given them a demonstration of shunting trucks in and out of sidings. Bill and Ben didn't know which way to look when it came to the camera, but they were loving it. Some had even taken photographs of Diesel. Bill and Ben were cross, but they tried their best not to let them get their day spoiled. The day was almost over when Edward whistled into the yards. A shunter came down from his cab and explained the problem. "A ship needs moving before the tide goes down. One of you see it, please." "Step aside, boys, and let me show you how it can be done." Diesel oiled away, and with that, the enthusiast went to see the action. Diesel's driver ran up to the twins and told them that Diesel needed help, and the twins set off. Quickly they were coupled together, and try as they might, the three engines managed to pull the ship off the mud and into the water. Everyone cheered and took their photographs. One enthusiast had a camera that took instant pictures and showed the twins the picture of them and Diesel pulling the ship. "What a picture," they said. Thomas the tank engine and Bertie the bus are good friends, and whenever they meet up with each other, they would usually have a race. The two friends enjoyed it very much, but their passengers begged to differ, and the fat controller soon came to see them in the yards. "The passengers have been complaining," he said to Thomas and Bertie sternly, "that your races have made their journeys uncomfortable. I don't approve of racing, and I want you two to stop doing that at once." "Yes, sir," replied the two friends. One morning, Thomas was waiting at the station with Annie and Clarabelle. He was still sad that he couldn't race with Bertie. Just then, Edward puffed in, looking worried. "Hello, Edward," said Thomas. "What's the matter? Have you heard? The station master got burgled last night." Thomas was surprised. "Burgled?" "That's right. My driver told me, and they took his gardening cups." "Oh dear," sighed Thomas. "You better watch out for them, Thomas. They can't get away with it." "Yes, of course. Thank you, Edward." And he puffed away. Later that day, Bertie the bus was rolling down the road. He was looking out for Thomas, hoping to have a little race. Just then, his driver noticed two people standing by the road with a large sack. "Morning, gentlemen," called his driver. "Do you want a lift?" "Yes, thank you," they said. Then something fell onto the road. "Oh no!" one of them cried. "My wallet! Can you please get that for me? I've got this heavy sack on me." "Certainly," replied Bertie's driver, and went towards the wallet. But just as he was about to turn around, Bertie roared away. "Thanks for the free ride," one of them jeered. The driver looked in the wallet and found that it was empty. "Help! Police!" cried the driver. Meanwhile, Thomas was puffing down his branch line. He then saw Bertie roaring down the road. "What's he doing in such a hurry?" he said to himself. "I bet he wants to race." His driver wasn't so sure. "You know what the fat controller said, have you? No racing." "Well, maybe just a little one, driver." "No." Thomas pulled into another station, still feeling very disappointed. Just then he heard Bertie. "Hello, Bertie," peeped Thomas. "Thomas, help!" he cried. Thomas was surprised as Bertie rolled past him. "Bertie needs our help." "We must see what is wrong, driver," cried Thomas. His driver agreed. "Right," he said, and after the guy blew his whistle, Thomas puffed quickly away. They tried their best to catch up to Bertie. "Can't we get closer to him?" he panted. The driver opened the regulators. They began to draw level with Bertie. "Bertie!" called Thomas. "What's wrong?" "Thomas, it's the thieves! The ones who stole the station master's gardening cups! I'm being used as a getaway vehicle! Help me, Thomas! Help!" His driver noticed a sack and one of the gardening cups inside. "That's them all right, Thomas," said the fireman, "but we can't stop them. They'll be gone long before the next station." "But we must try," replied Thomas. "Bertie is our friend." Then Thomas had an idea. "Let's try and get to the next signal box and give a message to the signalman over there." "We need pencil, paper, and something to put a note in," said the driver. "We'll throw a message to him." Quickly, he wrote the note, and they put it in an empty lunch tin. The driver opened the regulator wide open and drew ahead of Bertie. The passengers were being bumped around, but Thomas had no time to deal with that at the moment. They soon came towards the signal box. Thomas slowed down, whistled to attract the signalman's attention, and the firemen threw the lunch tin. "Police!" they shouted. They arrived at a station, and Bertie was nowhere to be seen. "I hope we're not too late," sighed Thomas. Then the passengers came and were very cross with Thomas's speed. But when the driver told them the whole story, they felt sorry for Thomas. But thankfully, the signalman called the police and blocked the road so Bertie and the thieves couldn't get through. Bertie was pleased. Later that day, the fat controller came to see Thomas and Bertie in the yards again with the station master, who was very pleased that his gardening cups were safe. "I don't approve of racing," he said, "but in times of need, I can see how beneficial it is to shave a friend." For many years, Trevor the traction engine had been working at the vicarage orchard ever since the vicar had saved him from the scrapyard thanks to Edward helping him. He saws wood, collects apples, and gives children rides around the orchard. Sometimes he would do odd jobs outside of the orchard, and some of those odd jobs would be entertaining people with rides at festivals or fairs. But one day, Trevor was feeling depressed. He couldn't breathe properly. "Your boiler needs mending," said his owner, the vicar, "but I can't afford it at present."
"But what about the festival at the seaside village, vicar?"
wheezed Trevor. "Even if you're as fit as a fiddle, Trevor, they weren't going to have you this year since they already had a special attraction to replace you. I'm sorry, old boy." This made Trevor feel more depressed. One morning, the vicar came to see Trevor. "Cheer up, Trevor. You may be a bit under the weather, but you can manage this," he said. "The farmer has a tree down and wants you to saw it up for him." Trevor likes doing odd jobs, but he was still hurt that he wasn't going to be the special attraction at the Seaside Village Festival. When he had steam up, they went to the farm and set to work in a field near the railroad. Not even the sight of Edward passing by cheered Trevor up. "Hello, Trevor," Edward called. "Hello, Edward," Trevor replied sadly. When Trevor was on a break, he came to see Edward in the yards at his station. He then explained why he was feeling so down. "Whatever they replace me with this year makes me feel useless." "You're far from useless, Trevor," explained Edward. "Why would the farmer want you to saw his logs? Because you're still useful to those who do." This perked Trevor up. Thanks to Edward, the idea of him missing out on the village festival was cleared out of his mind, and he was enjoying his work of sawing wood. He later saw Edward passing by with some empty trucks bound for the clay pits. But before he could whistle to Trevor, the line seemed to wobble under him. "That feels like a loose rail," he thought. "We'd better tell the workmen about it." When he arrived, Edward was tasked to take some full trucks to the station. But the old engine was worried. "But there's a bump on the line near the junction," he told the workmen. "Are you sure that it is safe to do so?" "I don't have time to worry about a bumpy track. The line is safe enough as it is. Get going, please." So Edward did as he was told. At the field, Trevor had finished his work and was dozing in the sun before he was to head home. The wind had dropped and he was feeling comfortable. It seemed no time at all before he heard Edward coming back. He was nearing the loose rail. Trevor whistled a cheerful greeting. As he watched Edward passing by, it happened. 3 of Edward's trucks had been derailed from the bad piece of line that he had felt that morning. The guard, safe in his van, blew his whistle, but Edward, far in front, didn't hear it and hurried on without realizing it. Trevor was closer to the van and he heard the whistle, and then he blew his whistle loud and long, enough to attract Edward's attention. "Stop, Edward! Stop!" "It's Trevor!" he cried anxiously. "Something must be wrong!" He applied his brakes and his fireman raced to see what was the problem. He didn't need telling when he saw the trucks. "Phew!" he remarked. "It wasn't Trevor that needed help. It's us." Help was soon called and the breakdown gang came to clear the line. The workman whom Edward had told about the line earlier was embarrassed for not taking the warning seriously and apologized to Edward, and soon the line was mended. That evening, Trevor came home when he saw the fat controller waiting for him at the shed. "Thank you, Trevor, for telling Edward about the accident. I have heard about your boiler, and as a reward, you will go into my works to have it mended. Would you like that?" "Oh, sir, thank you," said Trevor happily. Now Trevor is as happy as can be with his mended boiler, and even though he missed out on being the special attraction, lots of children came to see him still. They had all heard about his heroic action towards Edward. "I guess I am a special attraction," he said to himself. After rescuing Toby from the damaged bridge, the fat controller and the quarry manager agreed that Mavis was allowed to come down the line from the quarry with help from Toby. Mavis was pleased and felt that it was rewarding, but even so she still found life dull at the quarry with everything looking the same and sounding the same, and her only company was the troublesome trucks. When she rolled down the line, she would often come to the level crossing where Thomas once got in trouble with a constable. There were warning signs, but sometimes Mavis and her driver would see some cars and lorries ignoring them before they could reach it. "There'll be an accident one day," Mavis's driver would often say. "Phew!" she scoffed. "If a car or lorry comes, I would just push it aside. That would show them who's boss." When she told Toby about her idea, Toby was livid. "You should never do something like that, Mavis," he said crossly. "Some cars and lorries can be careless at that crossing, but you shouldn't harm them or their driver at all. It's very unsafe to do so." "Fiddlesticks," said Mavis, and she flounced away. Although Mavis and Toby had gotten along with each other now, there are still times when both engines get on each other's nerves, and Mavis would often get annoyed with Toby's constant lecturing. "I don't know what's going on in that diesel's head," he said to his driver. "She's still young, Toby," replied his driver. "We always have the unwisest idea in mind when we are like that." Toby knew that his driver was right, but he still didn't like Mavis's idea of dealing with road vehicles. One morning the trucks were all in the wrong places, and Mavis had to sort them out for Toby to collect them. "I don't want that old fusspot lecturing me again," she thought to herself as she placed all the trucks into their proper places. When the work was done, Mavis felt exhausted. But then one truck cried out, "You're late with your first train, Mavis! Hurry up!" "Oh dear," gasped Mavis, and she raced away to couple to the trucks. Earlier, while Mavis was shunting, the troublesome trucks were bored and had planned to play a trick on Mavis for making them late. As she came down the line, they surged against her. On, they chattered. "Stop pushing," growled Mavis. They came to the crossing, and Mavis saw a lorry coming towards them. "Oh, a lorry! He'd better stop for us or else," she thought. But the lorry was coming in much too fast. It turned the corner much too sharp, and as Mavis neared the crossing, so did the lorry. The lorry's front bumper was caught on her cowcatcher and was tipped over on its side with a crash. "Ouch!" she exclaimed crossly. "That hurt!" Her driver jumped down from the cab and went to see if the driver was okay. Luckily he wasn't hurt, but he was still surprised by seeing Mavis. "Is that a train?" the man demanded. Mavis's driver laughed and said, "It certainly is. I'm surprised you didn't even know." "I know what trains are," replied the man. "I just didn't expect one to be here. I'm new here to the island." The lorry driver apologized for getting in their way, but Mavis couldn't go anywhere after her cowcatcher was dented. It wasn't safe to do so, and so she had to be assisted to the yards and to the works. And of all the engines to help was Toby. He heard about Mavis's accident and couldn't help but tease her. "So you show that lorry who's boss by letting it dent your cowcatcher, Mavis?" Mavis just grumbled, and Toby pulled her away to the yards. "I hope this will teach you why pushing road vehicles out of the way by force was a careless idea." Mavis said nothing, but knew that Toby was right. Mavis was worried that she wouldn't be allowed to go down the line after her accident with the lorry, but the fat controller and manager told her that it was just an accident, and that she wasn't at fault for the whole incident. So Mavis still travelled down the line with her trucks, but she didn't have the mindset of pushing cars and lorries by force at the crossing again. It was nearly Christmas, and Thomas and Toby were very busy taking people and parcels up and down the branch line. However, the coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, were complaining. "We feel so full, they grumbled. Thomas was feeling the heavy workload too as he looked at the hill ahead. Can I do it? He puffed anxiously. By the side of the track, there was a lonely little cottage with a figure waving a handkerchief from a window. Thomas felt better after seeing her. Yes, I can, he puffed bravely. That was Mrs. Kyndley who waved to you, Thomas, his driver told him. She has to stay in bed all day. Poor lady, said Thomas. I am sorry for her. Engines have heavy loads at Christmas time, but Thomas and Toby didn't mind the hard work when they saw Mrs. Kyndley waving. But then it began to rain. It rained for days and days. Thomas didn't like it, nor did his driver. Off we go, Thomas, he would say. Pull hard and get home quickly. Mrs. Kyndley won't be waving today. But whether she was waving or not, they would always whistle when they passed by the lonely little cottage. Its walls stood out against the dark background of the hills. Hello, exclaimed Thomas's fireman one day. Look at that! The driver saw what the fireman was referring to. Something's wrong there, he said. Hanging, flapping and beraggled from a window of the cottage was something that looked like a large red flag. Mrs. Kyndley needs help, I expect, said the driver, and put on the brakes. Thomas gently stopped. The guard came squelching the train up to Thomas's cab, and the driver pointed to the flag. See if a doctor's on the train and ask him to go to the cottage, then walk back to the station and tell them we stopped. So he did, and when a doctor had been found, they walked towards the cottage. The fireman went to see if the line was clear in front. He then returned. We'll back down to the station, said the driver, so that Thomas can get a good start. We shan't get up the hill, the fireman answered. Come and see what's happened. Jiminy Christmas! Exclaimed the driver. Go back to the train, I'm going to the cottage. He found the doctor with Mrs. Kyndley. Silly of me to faint, she said. You saw the red dressing gown? It all safe? Asked Mrs. Kyndley. Yes, smiled the driver. I've come to thank you. And he told the doctor about the landslide. He thanked her once again, and he and the doctor tiptoed from the room to Thomas. They cleared the line by Christmas Day, and as the sun shone, a special train puffed up from the station. First came Toby, then Thomas with Annie and Clarabelle, and last of all, but very pleased at being allowed to come, was Henrietta. The Fat Controller and all the people were on board the train who wanted to say thank you to Mrs. Kyndley. Beep, 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 beep. Happy Christmas, whistled the engines. The people got out and climbed to the cottage. Thomas and Toby wished they could go too. Mrs. Kyndley's husband came to the door and welcomed them in. They came to the room and gave them their presents. The driver had given her a new dressing gown to replace the one that was spoiled by the rain. The guard brought her some grapes, and the fireman gave her some woolly slippers and promised to bring her some coal as a present from Thomas the next time they passed. Mrs. Kyndley was pleased with her presents. You are very good to me, she said. The Fat Controller then gave her a present from him and the passengers. We hope that you'll accept these tickets to Bournemouth, Mrs. Kyndley, and get well in the sunshine. We cannot thank you enough for preventing that accident. I hope we're not shy of you. Goodbye, and a happy Christmas. After that, they joined the other passengers outside and sang Christmas carols towards the window. Mrs. Kyndley was getting better every day, and Thomas and Toby were looking forward to the time when they could welcome her home again. Daisy, the diesel railcar, was looking after Thomas's passengers on his branch line while he and the others were in the big city far away. One day she saw some workmen mending the road near the level crossing. Nearby she saw George the steamroller. Daisy had never heard of him. "Hello," she hooted, but George just ignored her. She hooted again and again to get a reply, but still nothing. "It's very rude to ignore a simple hello," Daisy exclaimed. "I'm trying to be friendly and you're just being terrible." Then George looked towards her and said,
"Railways are no good. Turn them into roads."
"What?" Daisy shrieked. "Come on, Daisy," said her driver. "The signal's down and we should go." Later she told the others about him at the yards. "Says to me you met George," chuckled Donald. "Who is George?" asked Daisy. "Hey, he was just a steamroller you just met, silly," laughed Douglas. "He's a terror. Just ask Risa Handel." And Douglas told Daisy about it. "He should change his attitude," huffed Daisy crossly. "The railway is going to be here for a long time, and he just have to put up with it." "Indeed," agreed Oliver. "But you can't change someone like George in a day, Daisy. I suggest ignoring him." But Daisy was determined. The next day she spotted George at the crossing again.
"Railways are no good," George grumbled. "Rip them up, turn them into roads."
"Nonsense! No one could reach the villages in the valley without our railway."
"I'll build a road along your old tracks," replied George crossly. "Nothing to it. I know steamrollers who have done it all over the place." "No one's rolling over anything today, George," replied his foreman. "Now get back to work." "Us too, Daisy," replied the driver. Later that day, Daisy soon forgot all her troubles when the station master received a letter. "It's from the Fat Controller," he said. "The engines are coming back from the big city next week." The other engines all heard it too, and they were delighted. A special welcome home celebration was arranged at the big station, and Daisy was very excited. She soon spotted George at the crossing again. "We're going to have a party for Thomas and the others," she told him. "Lots of people are going, so there'll be plenty on board for me." "What nonsense," snorted George. "More people will travel by a car than by a green sausage on wheels like you. Your railway will be rode before long, you'll see."
The next day came, and all the engines were gathered at the big station. Daisy was taking some very special passengers. The work near the crossing was complete, and George was heading for home. He then heard Daisy's horn and had an idea. As Daisy left the station, there was a crunching sound. "Ouch!" The guards soon found the problem. It was a traffic cone. Daisy tried to move, but it was stuck. "Oh no!" wailed Daisy. "Now how will the passengers get to the big station on time?" Just then Bertie rolled towards her. "I could take them if you like." Daisy had no choice, and so the passengers boarded him, and he rolled away. "That stupid George!" she hissed crossly. "He did this on purpose!" "Can't be helped, Daisy," sighed the driver. "We'll do what we can." A fitter came to help, and in no time the safety cone was removed, and Daisy could move again. But she was worried that they missed the celebration. All thanks to George? Daisy could see that the steamroller broke down and was blocking the roadway. Bertie was in the long queue too. The important passengers climbed out and went straight towards her. Daisy was pleased, and she flounced away. She arrived at the big station still worried. Then she heard some whistles in the distance. "Oh dear," she groaned. "We're too late." "No," said her driver. "It's for us. Look." And he was right. As Daisy pulled into the yards, all of the engines were cheering for her, bringing the important passengers. And later, Thomas and the other engines puffed proudly into the big station, to the delight of cheers and whistles.
George still held on to his beliefs. But Daisy thought that deep down, he was wrong.